Let me just dust that off. Hi, I'm Felicia. Welcome here. It's been a while. I feel nervous. I feel like I definitely don't know how to do this anymore. But I want to get back into filming videos. I'm just like really struggling with my camera setup here. And it's great. Hi, how are you? How was your Christmas, your holidays? Good, I hope. Ours was good. It's actually really good. It was pretty, compared to other years, very unstressful. And we did a lot of fun things. My plan for this video actually is to catch you up on everything that I read this in 2023. I read 74 books, I think. Yeah. And my plan is I have it printed out just to go through alphabetically by author. No dilly-dallying, because this video is going to be plenty long. Alphabetical by author and just tell you what I read. So it's going to be weird. I think I'll come back with my favorites video. Maybe, no, I don't think so. Because it's hard for me to think of like favorites that I want to talk about. I'm just going to talk about them now. This is going to be a long video, so like get a nice cozy drink. I have a can of Bublé, because I'm Bublé. And my red shelves are in disarray. My TBR shelf here is pretty okay, except this stack of books is books that these are all books that I got for Christmas. So, haven't read them yet. Anyways, let's go. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so happy that you're here and watching this video. So, in January, I read 4 books. In February, I read 6 books. In March, I read 12 books. That's only because of middle grade March. In April, I read 5 books. May, I read 6 books. June was 5. July was 4. August was 6. September was 6. October was 5. November was 3. And then December was 6. So apparently I read 6 books a month. It's interesting how that's pretty consistent. We're just going to start at the top. I feel like I should have more preamble into this. If you're wondering where I've been is just didn't film and then just got into the habit of not filming and then feeling overwhelmed at the thought of catching up. And now here we are where I'm going to talk to you about 74 books. Briefly. Okay, like some of them there won't be a lot to say. Some of them there will be a lot to say. I don't know. I've literally not thought about what I am going to talk about with these books. If you hear buzzing noise, Chris is doing hair maintenance, beard maintenance. That's his shaver. What do you call them? Electric razors? I don't know. Okay, it's fine. I'm just talking to my friends. Right? I'm just talking to my friends. Okay, so just starting at the top. Okay, so the first 3 books that I'm going to talk about, I read The House at Pooh Corner, When We Were Very Young, and Now We Are 6 by A.A. Milne. And those are all Winnie the Pooh books, books 2, 3, and 4. Except When We Were Very Young and Now We Are 6 are actually poetry, which I didn't know, but I enjoyed. I listened to them all in audio for middle grade March, and they were narrated by Peter Dennis, and I really enjoyed them. His voice for Rue was adorable, and it just made me giggle the whole time. Loved it. So I would really recommend them. I really enjoyed them. Yeah, so that's it for that. In August, I listened to The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. I did not like it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to am I going to tell you synopses of any of these books? Maybe not. This one is pretty well known, so, and there's a movie adaptation, and I did not enjoy the book. I felt like it was really repetitive. It was really boring. I really hate books where, oh, sorry. There's like reflective things in my glasses. I think this paper maybe is making my face shine. Anyways. I'm rusty, guys. I hate books where the narrator is like using drugs and alcohol, prescription drugs, and mixing them with alcohol and taking, you know, outside of the prescription and all of these things, and it just drives me crazy. Like I hate that. So this was one of those books where the main character just was numbing away her life, and yeah. And then it just, yeah, was boring, and I didn't like her anyway, and I didn't like the narrator. I don't remember who the narrator was, but she sounded like this woman was supposed to be in her early 40s, and this woman sounded like she was like almost 70. So it was not a good match. I have no idea if that's actually true. I don't know how old the narrator is, but whatever. She was not the right voice. I read 2 books by Agatha Christie. I reread Murder on the Orient Express because last winter I really went through a phase where I was like listening to as many Dan Stevens audiobooks as I could. So that's just what I just wanted to listen to Dan Stevens read me books. So I re-listened to Murder on the Orient Express, and like the good thing with me is that my memory is so bad. I should have this lower. 1 second. That's a bit better. All right. Yeah. Murder on the Orient Express. The good thing with me is that my memory is so bad that I can experience mysteries and not necessarily remember who did them. I did remember in this case what the outcome was, but there have been other mysteries that I've reread, and I'm like, I don't remember who did this. But anyways, yeah, so that was fun. Like, such a great book. Oh my goodness. Agatha Christie. I don't know if you can see. I got a bunch of Agatha Christie books. There's more here. Probably can't see those. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to be reading a lot of Agatha Christie. Lately, I've really been in a murder mystery mood. So that works out. Then the other one was Midwinter Murder, which is... and I listened to that on audio. The narrator was Fenella Woolgar. And she is an actress in some kind of Agatha Christie show. I don't remember, but I remember seeing that. And Midwinter Murder is a collection of like short stories that take place around Christmas and like wintertime. So there are like some Poirot, some Miss Marple, some standalones. And it was great. Just recently I read Own Your Space by Alexandra Gater, and I just randomly took that out from the library. I have followed her YouTube channel for quite a few years now, and I just really enjoy her videos, especially like over the last year. I feel like she really has, maybe even longer, come into, I don't know, it just feels like she's more like she's really comfortable in front of the camera, and like she's a really good team, and yeah, the people working with her are just great, and their dynamics together, I love them. Her handyman, contractor, builder, whatever you call him, Graham, he has been such a great addition to the team. Like, I just love Graham. So yeah, I've really been enjoying her videos, and then I just picked up her book from the library because I wanted to flip through it. And it's just like lots of pictures of rooms that she's done over, and like, you know, how to approach customizing your space and making fixes when you maybe rent or if you live in like a small space. And yeah, just a lot of good ideas in there. Like I knew a lot of them because I have been up to date on her channel. Like, I watch pretty much all of her videos, so I already knew them. But it was still good. I would say it's a good resource, especially for someone that's like moving out on their own for the first time, or like really struggles to like make their space their own. This would be like a good all-in-one resource for ideas. Okay, finally one that I can show you and hold up. I read The Benevolent Society of Ill-Mannered Ladies by Alison Goodman. This was a fun book. Well, it was fun. Okay, so we follow, how old are they? 42-year-old twins, Augusta and Julia, and they live in Victorian Regency? Regency? What is this set? Oh, This is going off the rails. 1812, so that is Regency, right? Anyways, yes, so we follow the twins. They're not married, and so, you know, in 1812, it's horrible, horrible fate to be 42 and unmarried. And they kind of help other women in scrapes, and it kind of starts out like protecting someone from blackmail. So they're like blackmailing the blackmailer. And then it kind of snowballs from there, and eventually they're just like rescuing women from these horrible places. The back makes it sound really like lighthearted. It was actually way more serious than I was expecting it would be. Parts of it felt really heavy because there were like a lot of bad things that Jane Austen wouldn't have talked about in her books that were happening at the time. Slavery, etc. So yeah, I did like this book, but I also felt like the author, the thing that bothered me about the book was that the author was really inserting like her modern views on like through the main character, and like to the point where it just really, it felt too modern. So like our main character, Augusta, she's questioning like everything that we today would not approve of in that society, like how women have no autonomy, how they treated like black people as slaves, how unmarried women with children were treated, how people were working in the sex industry, how people of like LGBTQ attractions and persuasions, like how they had to hide, and our main character didn't agree with that, and like all of these things. She's sitting in church and she's an apostate, like she's just sitting there and she doesn't believe in God, and it's just like all of those things together. It was like, wow, that's too much. And she just like doesn't question them, like she feels completely settled with all of those things, and it just felt like it felt too modern. Like even if she'd been kind of like okay, so I read this with my book club, and we were talking about how when you read Huckleberry Finn, and he like really thinks that he's going to hell for having a relationship with a black person, for helping him escape slavery. He really thinks that he's a bad person, but he like is wrestling with that, right? Whereas this, there's no wrestling. Like she knows that she's right and she's confident, and so that was just like, this is so modern ideology. Yeah, so that was just like annoying. And then it just felt like this book was so heavy. Okay, but I did like it. I think there's at least a second book planned, and I am gonna read it because that seems like it's gonna be more like solving a mystery. And there is a couple relationships going on by the end of the book that I'm very interested to see where they go. So I will read the next book. So yeah, if you want to read a Regency and adventure featuring strong women in their 40s. I mean, so like I'm 35. Yeah, I'm 35. And so these women are like closer in age to me than, you know, early 20s protagonists. So I felt like more of a kinship with them. So yeah, love to read books about women in their 40s, that's for sure. 30s and 40s. Yeah, I've been talking about this one too long. So did that sound good or interesting? I don't know. I listened to on audio read for the first time The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Had never read this before. The audiobook was narrated by Selma Blair. I was like, who from Legally Blonde? That one. Selma Blair. It's essential reading, isn't it? Everyone should read this. And like the thing I really appreciated about it is that teenage girls never change. They're the same forever. So yeah, I don't know. There's something really comforting in that. Like even when she was living through World War II, being persecuted, and had to go into hiding, she still just like had teenage emotions, and sometimes she was just like really mad at stuff for no reason. She didn't know why. And I don't know, I remember how that felt, and even today sometimes, right? But yeah, definitely, yeah, like well worth reading. If you have never read it, you should at least once, you know. This year I finally finished up my read of all of the Sherlock Holmes stories. I don't even remember which year, 2020 or 2021. I started listening to the collected Sherlock Holmes narrated by Stephen Fry on Audible, and I finally finished it. So that was, oh no, hang on. Okay, The Valley of Fear, His Last Bow, and The Casebook of Sherlock Holmes. The Valley of Fear, I don't even remember His Last Bow. The Valley of Fear was great because he clearly was done writing Sherlock Holmes stories, but he still had to. So like half of the book Sherlock isn't even there. It's someone telling Sherlock a story, but then like it's completely his narration, which was hilarious. But yeah, so that one was great. I have found that they're all good stories, but I have preferred the novels to the short stories. I don't know why, but yeah, so Sherlock Holmes, great. Thumbs up. I read 2 Brandon Sanderson books this year, and I'm gonna keep saying this year. I realize that it already was last year, but you know what I mean. I read 2 Brandon Sanderson books. I read Tress of the Emerald Sea and The Frugal Wizard's Handbook to Surviving Medieval England. I can never say that without tripping over it, / wanting to insert the word guide instead of handbook. So we did get the ebooks of the Secret Sanderson books. Did not read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter or The Sunlight Man yet, but I'll get there. My pace of reading Brandon Sanderson is way below his pace of writing. Whatever. It's impossible to keep up with him. Whatever. Not annoyed at all. Okay, so I read Tress of the Emerald Sea first, and I loved it. It was great. It was so much fun. It was sweet. Definitely one of my favorites. That would be one of my favorite books of the year. And, well, not that I've read that many Sanderson books, but like it's up there. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook was not a favorite. I mean, I liked it, but that one felt more, I don't know, unpolished, I guess. Yeah, that story was just not one that I really connected with or whatever. I guess, like, it was fun, but I guess I wanted more from it. I don't know. It took me long to read because I wasn't as invested. So whatever. Still good, still worth reading. I finished my listen of The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. So I read Prince Caspian, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Silver Chair, and The Last Battle. I did listen to them in the chronological order, just because that's the way they were in the audiobook that had the whole series. It's not my recommended, not my preferred, but I just did it because whatever. Next time I will do it that way. I love all of the books. I love all of them for different things. Like I love Prince Caspian, because we have the Pevensies and Prince Caspian, and and then The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is just such a fun adventure, and I love how they go to all of these different mini quests, you know, in their main quest. They have 7 side quests, and it's just really great. And I love Eustace's transformation as a character. The Silver Chair is also great. The adventure in that one is really fun. And then The Last Battle is just like so gutting to read. You know, like 85% of the book. And then the last 15% is just great. And like the end of that book, it just gets me every time. And like I was listening to it. I think Patrick Stewart narrates that one. Anyways, and he's reading it, and I was just like sitting at my desk and I was like, don't cry, because it just makes me just so happy. And like that parallel, the allegory of like getting to heaven and just like being restored and just like, oh, it's just so great. And it just makes me really excited. So yeah, I just love that. I just really love the Chronicles of Narnia. They're so precious to me, and yeah, I love them. Okay. I read for the first time ever Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. That was very much fun. Read it with my book club. I did say Oliver Twist. All of a sudden I was like, did I say Oliver Dickens? I said Oliver Twist. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Love me some Dickens. Did you know that the iconic line is, "Please, sir, I want some more"? Because that's how it is in here. "Please, sir, I want some more." Okay. Yeah, I started tabbing and then I fell off. What a wonderful story. I want to read at least, I probably will read only one Dickens book this year, but I would like to read a Dickens at some point in 2024. I do not read enough of those. This is going way back. This is my Advent read from Christmas 2022, continuing on till Epiphany, which is January 6th. Is that when this one ended? Anyway, so this is Watch for the Light, and the editor is... Who's the editor? Don't know. It's published by the Plough Publishing House. I don't know who collected them. Anyways, this was good. It had a lot of good readings in it, so you have a reading every day through Advent and Christmastide. And yeah, these were good. I don't think I have a lot to say. It was a good one. The one I read this year, it was also, I think, maybe the same publishers. I'm not sure. Definitely matching covers, or coordinating covers. And that one was called Goodness and Light. And I didn't like the readings in that one. I didn't read it every day, and I am not sad about that, and I am not going to read that one again. I can't tell you what the difference is, except that I just like these readings better. In March, I read, I don't know why all of a sudden I'm telling you when I read it. In March, I read Holy Sexuality in the Gospel by Christopher Yuan, and that one was really good. That would be one of my favorites of the year as well. That one also might be a bit controversial. So his testimony is actually like amazing. He was not raised in a Christian home, came out to his parents as gay when he was a young man, like 20-ish, and his parents kicked him out, and, you know, broke ties with him. And he was living just like, he was living a gay lifestyle, but also he was like selling drugs and stuff and like doing crimes. So he was just like not living a good life at all. And his parents, I think first his mom and then his dad, independently of each other, I think, and of Christopher, they like found Jesus and got relationship with him, not coming from like a Christian background at all. And his mom started praying for him, and he ended up getting arrested, going to jail for, I don't know how many years, I don't remember. And while he was in jail, he found a Bible, I think, and then he read it, because reading material in jail is scarce, and he ended up becoming a Christian. I think he found the Bible in a garbage can. Like, crazy. But yeah, and now he's a Christian. When he got out of jail, when he was in jail, he was applying for seminary. And then like as soon as he got out of jail, like a month later, he was in seminary. Hilarious. But yeah, and now he's a Bible teacher, and I think he teaches at Moody University. Is it a university? Moody Bible School. I don't know what they're called. I think he's a teacher there, and he also like writes books and teaches other places. So his testimony is great, and I just told you the whole thing, but it's like better to hear it from him. And he does talk about it in the book. And so he is a man who experiences same-sex attractions, but he has not found that the Bible supports that lifestyle. So he's chosen a life of celibacy. But what he argues in the book is that that's not, our sexual orientation or identity is not the focus of like living a holy life. Like that's not what makes you holy. What makes you holy is, or what holy sexuality is, as in the title, is that you're living a surrendered life to Jesus and pursuing him and living according to what we are called to as Christians in the Bible. And more like that. And it was a really great, I would really recommend it if you're a Christian or not. Maybe reading something like that would be interesting to you. I don't know. But yeah, it was really challenging. Like the way that he challenges the reader to actually, I don't know, like focus on what holiness actually is and what that means. Like it's not so much about like which way of living is right or wrong, but rather that being a Christian, you're at a different level of holiness that Christ calls us to. Does that make sense? But yeah, so I thought it was great. I learned a lot and I want to read it again, but I lent it to my friend, so I have to wait for her to give it back. Okay, then switching tone. In the summertime, I read a book called Hazardous Duty by, now I just said that, I'm sorry. Hazardous Duty by Christy Barritt. We're moving on. So it's this woman who, it's a Christian murder mystery. She's kind of like a detective, I guess. And I got this book for free on Kindle like 100 years ago. And I finally read it. And there's like 12 books or 16 books in the series or something. I'm not going to continue. Just so you know. For what it was fun. So she is, the main character, is a crime scene cleaner. And then she also has her first foray into trying to solve the crime because somebody got murdered and she doesn't think that the person that is being accused of it did it. So she investigates. She meets a hunky dude that's new to town. Sparks fly. Yeah. And is it a spoiler to tell you? Because I just looked this up. So like there's 16 books and I was like, I bet this is going to be where she and this guy have just like this on and off relationship for like at least 7 books. And then maybe they'll get together. And it is probably exactly like 7 books or something. Maybe even longer before they actually get married. And I'm like, I'm not wasting my time on that. They get married by book 4 or I'm out. Okay. All kinds of opinions from Felicia. The next book to talk about is The Sudden Appearance of Hope by Claire North. Now I don't remember which year I read the first 15 Lives of Harry August, but that was one of my favorite books. Was it 2021? Loved it. Finally got around to reading another one of her books, and like this is actually like a chunk. If you liked The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, this is a similar premise, but a very different story. So our main character, Hope, when she's like 16, yeah, it started when I was 16 years old. People just like started forgetting her. So like her family, her mom would set the table for 3 and then for her parents and her sister, and then she'd show up and she'd be like, oh, I don't know why I didn't set the table for you. I guess I forgot. And then eventually, you know, just like everyone forgets her. And it's kind of the same thing as Addie LaRue, that like she's got like about 2 minutes or something and then people forget her after they like leave her presence. And so she does crimes and there's someone coming after her, and it's just really interesting because they don't know that they're after her, but there's like, you know, all these like holes in their investigation, and so they're kind of trying to figure out what the thread is between the holes. So that's kind of how they're tracking her down. But yeah, and it was really interesting, and this takes us all over the world, and there's crimes and adventure, and then there's this big overarching plot and evil technology, and it was a really good book. I think I liked it liked it a little bit less than Harry August, but it was still a great book. I do wish maybe it was maybe 50 pages left, but it was still great. This was a very random read. I read Flatland: A Romance of Many Dimensions by Edwin A. Abbott, and this was in my Goodreads TBR, and I read it for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge because the prompt was to read a book that starts with the first letter of your name, and I had almost no books that start with an F. It was very challenging apparently, and that was on my Goodreads TBR, and just for the life of me can't remember where I heard about it, why I added it. Obviously someone must have recommended it with Sci-Fi Classics, and I think it's from the early 1900s. I don't remember how old it is. But I was so confused. I have no idea what even happened in this book, what it was about. But it was our protagonist was from a plane of one dimension, so everything was flat, and people had sides, and people were trying to breed so that they had more sides. They would have more sides, and then eventually rich people would have so many sides that they were almost a circle, but they still were not a circle, but they were a circle, and then eventually someone from 3 dimensions comes to him, and he's like, whoa. Maybe he goes to the 2 dimensions first, and then 3 dimensions, and then I don't know, or don't remember if there was a 4th. I remember nothing from this book. So it was a book that I ingested through my ear holes, and then that was it. I'm still confused why I read it, who recommended it, etc. I've been talking for such a long time, and I still have so many books to talk about. Oh, I need to speed it up. Okay, for middle grade March, I read Kiki's Delivery Service by Eiko Kadono, and I loved it. Obviously, I'm a Studio Ghibli fan, so I loved Kiki's Delivery Service, the movie. And this is actually a series of books, but I think only the first one has been translated into English from Japanese, and I just absolutely adored it. It was so sweet. It's a little bit different from the movie, as you can expect. But still just very sweet, and we have different, it kind of is not an overarching story, but more different stories. Each chapter is a different story of a delivery that Kiki does. And I really enjoyed it, and I wish that I could read the other books, but apparently I can't, unless I learn Japanese. I reread Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Is it Bronte or Bronte? I feel Bronte is actually correct, and I've just been saying Bronte my whole life. Guys, I don't know. Did you know that it's not actually Ariana Grande? It's Ariana Grande, because that's how she says it. It's Grandy. Anyways, okay. So is it one of those things that everyone just always said it one way, and it's that's actually wrong? Anyways, the first time I read this was 12 years ago, I think, maybe even 13. And so yeah, I thought it was time. I listened to the audiobook narrated by Joanne Froggatt of Downton Abbey fame. And I love that atmosphere. Her writing is great, but just it's so confusing. And Heathcliff and Cabby are the worst. Heathcliff is the literal worst. But yeah, so I read this when did I read it? I started it in Victober, and then I finished it in October. So like the vibes were absolutely correct. Would I read it again? Yeah. Not for like maybe another decade. I don't really have anything else to say about that. Heathcliff sucks. And also it's so confusing that everyone has the same name. Like, excuse me? So we have like Heathcliff, and then we have Linton Heathcliff Earnshaw, and Kathy Linton and Kathy Earnshaw, and it's too confusing. Anyways, it's too confusing. Listen to an audio, a memoir by Fern Brady called Strong Female Character. I am a big fan of the show Taskmaster. Absolutely love that show. It's like my comfort show. I just love it. Anyways, so Fern Brady is one of my favorite contestants from the show, and she has a book, so I had to read it. A lot of past Taskmaster contestants have books, and like I think this is the only one I've read so far. So this is like a memoir of her life, and she's 37. She's a little bit older than me, like 1 or 2 years, and she's just like talking about her childhood and then like her young adulthood and like starting of her career. But also it is a memoir of her dealing with her autism diagnosis. She is autistic, and so she talks about like how that affects her life and how that has affected her whole life, and then, you know, the point where she actually realizes that is what is going on, and then just like, yeah, how being a comedian with autism and like having to be with people all the time, etc., how it works for her. So like I really enjoyed her telling the story, whatever. But it also, like, her life is like really sad. Like so many bad things happen to her, but then it's also just like really really disjointed in a way, because she's telling you about this bad thing, but because she's autistic, she like processes it differently and has like a different or non-emotional reaction to it, because it's just a thing that happened, it's just a fact. And it's like, but this is so heartbreaking to listen to. It's so hard to listen to her tell these stories. So it is a bit crass at times, because she'll just say things and you're like, can you say that? But like, just is how it is. Overall, like if you are familiar with her or you want to learn more about autism, then I would say read it. There's swearing, but you know, whatever. There's been swearing in other of these books that I haven't told you about. I don't know why. She's Scottish, of course there's swearing. The next book, this book has a story as well. I listened to The Third Policeman by Flann O'Brien. I listened to this book. I forget who the narrator was. Jim Norton? I listened to this book because in October, beginning of November, all of a sudden I just like, I was listening to a Hozier song on Spotify, and then all of a sudden I was like, dang, this song slaps. And then, and like, obviously I listened to Take Me to Church when it came out 10 years ago. And I hated that song, and I still hate it. I just don't like that song. Then, and I think it was Shrike. Also, Cherry Wine is a good song. Should we talk about music for a while? Just an aside. Shrike, and I just was like listening to it on repeat, and I was like, I need to listen to more songs. Then I found out that in the summer, like August of 2023, he came out with a new album, and it's only like his third one in 10 years. And I was like, wow. And I listened to it, and the whole thing just slaps. The whole album is amazing. I listened to it on repeat for like 2 weeks. Didn't listen to anything else. Amazing. The album was inspired by Dante's Inferno, which I need to read now still. I did take it out from the library, but then I didn't get to it with Christmas things. So I want to just like acquire a copy and read it then. But yeah, so the whole album is kind of like, if you listen, don't listen to it on shuffle. You just gotta listen to it all the way through. Anyways, so the first 2 songs on the album are called De Selby Part 1 and De Selby Part 2. And de Selby is a character in The Third Policeman. Okay, so that's why I read it. And yeah, now having read the book and listening to the songs, I understand what the references are. I am still a little bit confused about the book. It was kind of one of those confusing ones, but also I really liked the first third, and then the second third was a bit confusing, and then the final third was great again. Kind of Douglas Adams-esque in that it felt kind of ridiculous at times. Unlike these bizarre things happen and you're like, what is happening? The main character is a man whose name we never learn, because at one point he forgets it. He's asked what his name is and he forgets. He does a crime and he is trying to cover it up. And then like a bunch of things happen. Like I truly cannot say anything more than that. Eventually he finds this weird police station and weird things happen at the police station. And like, I literally can't describe more than that without spoilers. Also, I'm a little bit confused still about some of the things. But like, the ending was phenomenal. I read that book because of Hozier. Have you listened to that album? I'll tell you what my favorite song is. My favorite song is Who We Are. I literally have wept many times to that song. And there's a song with Brandi Carlile, which, spoiler, I am currently listening to Brandi Carlile's audiobook memoir. And it's great because she sings at the end of the chapters. I love her. Love Brandi Carlile. Love Hozier. Yeah. Like, am I thrilled with the content in all of Hozier's songs? Not really, but like, he's such a good songwriter. The next book to talk about, which I guess I could show you because it's right here, but like, it doesn't have a dust cover, so it's very boring. I forgot that I tabbed it. Okay, my copy is so old. Lady of Quality by Georgette Heyer. And this book I really loved too. I really enjoyed it. It kind of is like following like Jane Austen tropes. This lady goes to Bath. What else happened? I actually can't remember. There's shenanigans. She becomes a chaperone to a young lady. And hijinks in Bath. And she meets this girl's guardian, who is literally described like Henry Cavill, which is hilarious because this book was written in the 60s or 70s. Like before Henry Cavill was born. But like, this guy is Henry Cavill. Have you seen those reels / TikToks of like picturing Henry Cavill? Like, it happens a lot. If they're British in a period historical classic, they do often look like Henry Cavill. Ridiculous. If they have dark hair, they're Henry Cavill. Okay. Anyways, Lady of Quality was good. I really enjoy Georgette Heyer, the 2 books of hers that I've read. In the beginning of the spooky season, I listened to / read, I kind of switched, Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Canas. And that was a really cool book. I'm like loving this like Mexican Gothic theme that's happening in a lot of fiction, and I just like really want to get into it, and I feel like there's so many at this point that it's a little bit overwhelming. But this one, it takes place in northern Mexico in like Victorian times, so like 1840s I think, but it's in Mexico, so it's not Victorian. And it's like, I guess, kind of realistic fantasy because it's like real world, but then there's vampires. And it's just like so cool. It was such a cool book. I really enjoyed it. She has, I think it's her second book. She has one more book, The Hacienda, and I would like to read that one too. For Jane Austen July, I reread Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen because it had been a while. It had been the longest since I'd read this book, but actually that's not true because recently I looked and it's actually Emma. I haven't read Emma in like 8-9 years, something like that. Yeah, so apparently I need to read Emma this year. Can you tell which one is not my favorite? I love Northanger Abbey. I love Henry Tilney. He is a babe. The Gothic vibes in the second half, immaculate. And I really love this book. It's wonderful. In the summertime, I listened to an audiobook that I got for free many years ago on Audible, and it's called Canadianity by Jeremy Taggart and Jonathan Torrens. And they are both, okay, so Jeremy Taggart is from the band Our Lady Peace, Canadian icon, and Jonathan Torrens was on Street Sense, which Canadian millennials will know. We've seen it. And they started a podcast together called Canadianity, I think. I think that's the name of the podcast. Anyway, so this book is like a lot like their podcast. So they talk about, I think most of the chapters are broken up like per province, except I think like the Maritimes are maybe lumped together. Anyways, and they kind of have a format, and I really would have liked to have actually read it physically rather than listen to it, because there's a lot of lists. And so the format of the chapters were like a memory that they had going to this place, this province, places to eat, notable people from there, things to do, etc. And so I would have actually liked to have it as a reference book. So the stories were kind of like meh. Like some of the stories were fun, but then towards the end it was like, oh, okay, whatever. They went to this place and they met some cool people and blah, blah, blah. So like for me, the value in it would be like a travel book. Eventually it did kind of get like repetitive and boring. I was like, okay, that's fine. I read The Chrysalids. Now I'm over here. Anyways, The Chrysalids by John Wyndham. Listen to this on audio, narrated by Noah Reid. Speaking of Canadians. And this book was great. One of my favorites of the year. Loved it. The Chrysalids is a post-nuclear apocalypse story of genetic mutation in a devastated world, and explores the lengths the intolerant will go to keep themselves pure. That's a great summary. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome. Great sci-fi. Want to read more. John Wyndham, and Noah Reid is a great narrator. This one was also, was it maybe a favorite read? I really loved this one when I read it. Listened to it. The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. And this book was great. There were a few things in it that I didn't like, but basically we follow a group of women who run a traveling library. That's what they call it. And they go on horseback through the mountains in Kentucky, in Appalachia, bringing the remote people books. Is this like 1940s? I forget when it was set. 1940s or 30s maybe. Pre or post World War II. Don't remember. Around that time. Anyways, it was really good. It was really well written. The characters were, like, I felt really connected to them. That's always a good sign when I feel connected to the characters and I care about their lives and what's happening and like what's going to happen to them. Then that's a good sign. There were some things in the book that I didn't appreciate. There's like one trope that I really hate that happened, and I always want it to go the other way and it never does, but whatever. Yeah, it was great historical fiction. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, it was about the love of books and the power of books and the power of women, friendships banding together. Okay. Just this past month, I listened to Mistletoe Murders 2, which is not really a book. It's a mini series on Amazon or on Audible. But yeah, I listened to the first season. I guess it's seasons, I guess. Season 1 last year and then season 2 this year, and it follows so yeah, it's like a mini series, murder mysteries set in a small town in Ontario somewhere. Colby Smulders narrates the main character, and there are a lot of familiar voices. Some of them I don't know. Oscar Peterson? No, his character's name is Oscar Eric Peterson, who plays Oscar on Corner Gas, is in one of the episodes, which just made me freak out. I loved it because I love Corner Gas. But yeah, so I would really recommend If you like murder mysteries, listen to Mistletoe Murders because they're so good. I can't wait for the next season, hopefully season 3. And I wrote that on my review on Goodreads, and the writer Ken Cuperus liked my review. So thanks, Ken Cuperus. Please keep it going. Now I have 2 books to hold up. I read. I didn't listen to them. I read Emily of New Moon and Emily Climbs, books 1 and 2 in the Emily Star series. I had never read these before. These are fantastic. Emily is an orphan, like Anne, but she goes to live with relatives. And it's kind of funny because they're really similar characters, but their outlooks on life are somehow like really different. Like they're both really dreamers, but they feel like really different characters. It's interesting. I just really enjoyed them. I love all the characters and I love the relationships. Obviously, I love Alan Montgomery's books. So I'm taking a break from this series. I'm reading The Story Girl right now. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to finish Emily's Quest. But yeah, looking forward to finishing this series in 2024. So those would also be favorites of the year. Guess what else I read? I read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Yeah. I'm only a million years late. 2012. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm late. I want to watch the show. So finally reading them. I really like this. Okay, so this is also really popular on BookTube, so I'm not going to explain the premise. But yeah, it was different than I was expecting. And I don't know what I was expecting. I guess it just like didn't have any tropes that I recognized. I didn't really know where it was going. So this was really enjoyable. And I've been procrastinating picking up books 2 and 3. But hopefully that will happen soon at some point this year. Okay, and then I listened to on audio Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Oh yeah, that was in May. I listened to it really fast while I was puzzling. Basically, I haven't done a puzzle since then. It was really popular / praised when it came out a couple years ago, last year. It was so good. Like, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. So it's like kind of about Shakespeare's wife and his son. So it's like alternating chapters. And I don't care about Shakespeare. Like, I don't. I'll happily watch a Shakespeare play, watch adaptations of Shakespeare plays, but like reading them is just like, I don't want to do it. And I don't care. So I don't, maybe Rainy, who read this? Rainy? Someone read it and I was like, well, that sounds interesting. And the audiobook was available. So then or it was like a short wait or something. So then I requested it. I listened to it and it was amazing. And the narrator was so good. The writing was just captivating. I couldn't stop listening and I really enjoyed it. It was great. So there's that. We're getting there, guys. Okay. I listened to an audio the first book in a cozy murder mystery series, and this was recently in December, because that's what I'm in the mood for. The book is called Knit 1, Kill 2 by Maggie Sefton, and this is like a 10-book series or something. And like, if I can get a hold of the audiobooks, I think they're on Everand, which is now Scrib's new name. If you didn't know, it's Everand. You probably knew that already. I've been around, I just haven't been here, okay? Anyways, a woman's aunt is killed in a seemingly random attack. She goes to a small town to deal with her affairs, and it looks like maybe this murder was a bit more suspicious. And so she investigates. And there's a theme with knitting in it, which I loved. Her aunt had a knitting group. The house across the street has a yarn shop in it. And so she goes, all of the women and one guy from the knitting group, they adopt this woman. What's her name? Kelly? I forget. Anyways, they kind of like adopt her and take her under their wings and they teach her how to knit, and it's just great. You can tell that Maggie Sefton is a knitter because of the way that she was like describing things was just great. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I read Home by Marilynne Robinson. This is book 2. I don't know if it's like actually a series, but it's like a bunch of companion novels. This is book 2 in that series. The first book is Home, and I got all of these covers on Book Outlet. So they all matched, because this art is amazing. Who's the artist? Charles E. Birchfield. Yes, this is great. It took me a bit longer to get into than Home did. No, Gilead. This is Home. Than Gilead did. But I really enjoyed it. I just really like the way Marilynne Robinson writes people. Like, she just really gets the nuances of people and relationships, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know how quickly I'll get to the next book. Lila or Leela? I don't know how to say that. But yeah, we'll see. I listened to an audio, The Miles Between by Mary E. Pearson. Same author of The Kiss of Deception fame. But this is a contemporary book from like 2009 or something. Anyways, and it's a contemporary road trip. A bunch of students skip school. 2009. They skip school and they take a road trip and they have an extraordinary day. The end. That's all you need to know. I liked it. I like her writing, but I mean, it is a YA contemporary, which is not my thing anymore. But I had it on the TBR shelf, and the audiobook was like so fast. I listened to it like in 2 days. Yeah. So, what do you want? This was another book. I actually read like a lot of books that were languishing on my TBR for a long time. Shades of Milk and Honey by Mary Robinette. Koal. Well, I always just feel like I'm saying koala, which isn't right, but whatever. This is also like Regency, yeah, set in Regency times, but there's like magic. So people can see threads, glamours, and they can like weave them. And it's like a popular thing to do in like the rich set. Does that make sense? Anyways, it's like a sign of status to be able to manipulate glamours. But other than that, it's like kind of like a Jane Austen book. So I enjoyed it. There's more books. I don't know if my library has them. I would like to read more. Like, it's kind of just one of those like cozy, easy things to read. So I would read more, but I don't necessarily want to buy them. So if I can get them somewhere else, then I would read more of those. I read 4 books by Melanie Dickerson on my Kindle when I had insomnia, or as what I like to call awake breaks, when I'll wake up around between 2 and 3 a.m. and then I'll be awake until 4 to 5 a.m. It's a great time. Call them awake breaks. It's like I just wake up and then I'm awake. So then I read a Melanie Dickerson book on my Kindle. So I read The Silent Songbird, which was retelling of The Little Mermaid. Then I read The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest, which isn't a retelling of anything. It is the first book in kind of like a similar trilogy, like similar setting, but it's not a fairy tale retelling. I don't think. If it is, I don't know what it is. And then The Warrior Maiden, which is Mulan, and The Orphan's Wish, which is Aladdin, which I read before The Warrior Maiden. Anyways, yeah, my favorite out of those was not The Orphan's Wish. It has a trope that I hate. I don't hate it. I just, I don't like it. Like, I could still read the book. It was fine. Yeah, maybe my favorite was The Warrior Maiden. Anyways, cozy, enjoyable, as always. In October, I picked up from the library randomly, and really glad that I did. What You Are Looking For Is at the Library by Michiko Aoyama. Aoyama. I can say that. Anyways, that book was so cute. I loved it. So it's translated from Japanese if you couldn't understand me trying to struggle through her name. And it kind of follows different characters. 4 we follow at least 4 characters that are all living in the same community, and they are all at some point go to the library, and they kind of have like their problem that they're dealing with, these different problems, and then they go to the library and they think they're looking for one thing, but then the magic librarian gives them something that helps them find what they actually need. So I just really enjoyed it. It was so cute. And I kind of like they were all connected by the library, which, I mean, obviously I loved. Library, books, the power of books, whatever. It's great. I kind of like that format, like, of different characters, and then they kind of, you know, they have the problem, they go to the library, and then they get something that they didn't think they were looking for. And that's great. I really enjoyed that one. Maybe one of the favorites of the year. It was so cute. Just in the last few weeks, the last book that I finished on December 31st was a reread, and that was A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. I read it was it last year or the year before? Sheesh, no, I don't remember. Anyways, and it's kind of like a short, is it a novella? It's short. And it is, I'm tired of listening to my own voice. This is terrible. So it's set in Victorian times, and it's a romance, and it's cute, and I like it. So I really enjoyed rereading it. If you're still here, I applaud you. You're cool, and I like you. Also, sorry for not looking at you. I'm looking at myself to the side. I should look at you. I'm very rusty at this. Okay. The next book that I want to talk about is All Along You Were Blooming by Morgan Harper Nichols. And this is a collection of poetry, and I enjoyed it. I like some of her poems more than others, as with anything. I like her art. I'm trying to do this. Stop it. Stop this, Felicia. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just flip. So, I really love the color scheme. Sheesh. I love all those colors together. Amazing. Beautiful. Oh, gang. If I have a poetry book and I read a poem that I like, I fold down the page. I really like doing that, so I can find the poems that I liked. Anyway, so it's poetry. She's a Christian. Some of her poems are faith-based, and then like maybe more, most of them are kind of just like more like accessible, I guess. Like kind of more vague. But some of them are like Jesus focused. I do like her poetry. It's good. Okay. Oh, hey, my camera died, so my battery died. So, next book that I want to talk about is Everwinter by Peter Hackshaw. I listened to this for 2 reasons. Dan Stevens. Also, post-apocalyptic. So, I was meant to love the book, I think. Set in a post-apocalyptic forever winter society. The book is pretty brutal at times. If you're squeamish, maybe wouldn't recommend. But it was really well written, and some of the plot points were like really interesting. So I would really recommend that one if you like post-apocalyptic. Kind of reminiscent of The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Yeah, I really like that one. Maybe a favorite of the year? I don't know. So the next book on my list is Stop Calling Me Beautiful by Felicia Masonheimer. And she's a Bible teacher that I follow on Instagram, and she has a few books already. I think she's a great teacher, and so I wanted to read this book. Basically, her idea for writing this book and for the title is that when Christian women go to conferences and stuff, a lot of the time the focus is that we're beautiful women and precious to God, but she's arguing that that we're made of more stuff than that, that we have brains too, and that we can, and I know that's not the intent, but you know, like, feels like a lot of things are just like surface level, and she's of the belief that every woman can be a theologian, and that we need to learn and all those kinds of things. So I thought it was a great book. It took me a long time to read it because I was like taking notes and stuff, but it was really good. Then I started 2023 by finishing this book, Morning Star by Pierce Brown. This is book 3 in his Red Rising saga. When it was published, it was just a trilogy, which is when I bought it. And now there's 2 more books and 2 more coming out, I think. But yeah, so this is such a great trilogy. It's really well known on BookTube, so I'm not going to tell you about it. But I just love the series. I love his writing. I think he's amazing. And I do have book 4, and I hopefully will get to it this year because it's just great. And like looking at this now, I'm like, oh, this world was so good. But yeah, so this one was great. I haven't mentioned those shelves are a mess. And then I read another book 3 in a series, but this did finish the trilogy, The White Feather Murders by Rachel McMillan. And this is kind of Sherlock and Holmes and Watson, like Sherlock and John. If they were women and they lived in 1912 Toronto. So it's a really fun series. I didn't like this book as much as I like the other 2. But yeah, still good, like detective mysteries. Set in Canada. And it's a good time. The next 2 books that I'm going to talk about are my favorite books of the year. Are you ready? Okay. The Thursday Murder Club and The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. I finally started the Thursday Murder Club series and I love them. Absolutely obsessed. Couldn't put it down, either one. I read this in a day. I was recovering from a surgery, but like I read it in a day, and then I read this in like less than a week. I just absolutely love these. Again, they're really popular on BookTube right now, so I don't think I need to tell you what they're about, but like I love all of the characters. I already was a fan of Richard Osman. He started off as like a TV presenter, I think, and now he's kind of also on the like comedy panel shows. He was on Taskmaster season 2, which I just like thoroughly enjoyed him on that show, and like watch him on the panel shows and stuff. So he's great, and I love the series. And Chris got me book 3 for Christmas. I told him, I was like, this is the only, like, if I don't get this book for Christmas, I'm gonna be so sad, because I'm doing a no-buy this year and I need to read that book in winter when I'm depressed. So please give it to me for Christmas. And he did. So yeah, I'm in love. So that's great. My favorite books of the year. Speaking of Taskmaster, nice Taskmaster transition. I listened to the audiobook of James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl, narrated by James Acaster, who was on Taskmaster. And that's pretty much the only reason why I listened to it. I mean, like, I've kind of been listening to Roald Dahl audiobooks over the past few years, and I've been enjoying them. And they're like just really excellent narrators. So yeah, as far as the story goes, like, not my favorite, but James Acaster did a great job. So I would recommend that. And then I read nonfiction by Roald Dahl, which was Going Solo, which was narrated by Dan Stevens. See, it's stories from his like young adult life. So when he was working for the Shell company in Africa, and then he joined the RAF in World War II. And the stories when he was living in Africa were much more interesting than his RAF stories, which, I mean, doesn't really make sense. He almost died when he was in the RAF. And like some of the things that happened to him there were crazy. But yeah, it was an enjoyable listen. I listened to the audiobook for The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I never read that book in school. And then I think, was it earlier in 2023, this year, that Chantal read it? I think it was Chantal anyway that read it, The Outsiders. And she was talking about how good it was. And I was like, dang, well, I should read this book. And I could get the audiobook so that I listened to it. And I thought it was amazing. And S.E. Hinton was like 15 or 16 when she wrote it. like, amazing. It was great. It was a great reading experience. I can see why it's a classic for a reason. Like, she really just understood people really well. She was just a teenager herself. It was great. And the next book, this was like a totally random cover buy when I was book shopping with my friend. And that's Wonder Cat Kyu-chan, story and art by Sasami Nitori. This is volume 1. And it's just stories about this guy and his cat. I love it. It's so cute. But yeah, like, I want all of these books because this cat is just adorable. I love it. I mean, obviously that's why I got it, because cats. I listened to the audiobook of The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. Amazing. I think my only other Shirley Jackson has been We've Always Lived in the Castle, which is there. Which I loved. I thought it was amazing. And I thought these stories were amazing too. She just really, like, she understood people. The Lottery, dang, I never had to read that in school either. Apparently that's required reading, and that one messed me up. So, among other stories, but you know, that's like her most famous one. So definitely a fan of Shirley Jackson. I listened to the audiobook of As Bright as Heaven by Susan Meissner, and that was my first Susan Meissner book, and that was a great audiobook experience. The narrators were all good. I don't remember who they are. This is her book that's set in Philadelphia during the Spanish influenza. So yeah, that was kind of bonkers to read post-COVID, but it was so good. Like, I was, again, like, super invested in the characters. So yeah, that one was really great. Would like to read more Susan Meissner. Just now, over Christmas, I read another free ebook that I downloaded like 10 years ago. And it's called The Lancaster County Christmas by Suzanne Woods Fisher. Yes, it is an Amish book. I don't really like Amish books. I don't know. I haven't read that many, but I don't really care to. But this one was an English couple gets stranded and they have to stay at this Amish family's home for Christmas. Oh no. And all of them overcome all of their problems. It was fine. It was just like a cute thing to read for Christmas, and it was good, I guess. I said it was good. It was fine. It was good. Like, whatever. Not like it was good, but it was good. We are getting close to the end. I finally listened to 2 Taylor Jenkins Reid books. Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. As audiobooks, amazing. Both of these are super popular. Not gonna tell you, but they're both structured like an oral history kind of thing, and so audiobook is a great way to have them. But ingest them. But the way that she writes her characters, like, I knew that it was fiction, but there was still a part of me that wanted to Google Daisy Jones and the Six and see what their songs sounded like. Although now there's a TV show, which I did also watch, and it was really good. So now you can technically listen to the songs, but they're different than as they're described in the book. And then, like, Evelyn Hugo, I was like, I need to watch this movie that she was in. That sounds like a classic. I should watch it. It's like, no, it's not a real movie. But yeah, both really intense, really heavy, but also just like so well written. So that's all I'm gonna say about those. Okay, then this was one of my first reads of the year as well. The Woman in the Green Dress by Taya Cooper. I think she's an Australian author. This is set in Australia. It's historical fiction, dual timeline, and I wish this book was longer. It's not long enough, and I was actually surprised this wasn't a debut novel because it felt like she started so many interesting plot lines in the book, and then by the end of the book is like, why did this get resolved like that? Like, you needed to explain that better. Yeah, just like a lot of things that I felt like she could have done better and she didn't. Like, I just wanted more from all the storylines. Like, so many interesting things that she introduced, and then she didn't execute any of them well. That's what I'm trying to say. And also just mega instant love, crazy instant love that really annoyed me. This girl, like in the beginning of the book, the girl meets this guy, what is it, World War One. And she meets this guy and she marries him after 3 days, and then he goes to war, and then they exchange some letters, and then he dies. So, like, but then she's just like obsessed with this guy, and she's acting like she's known him her whole life, but it's like, girl, you had 3 days with him, and then you had some letters, like, okay. Anyways, so she's like, I can't believe that he would never do something like that. And it's like, you don't know, you've spent 5 minutes with him. Anyways, so if you hate instant love, do not read this. If you, I would be, yeah, I'm done. Like, I wouldn't read more from this author. And I want this book to be better. I read it with my book club, and we were all like talking about ways that the book could have been improved, and I think maybe we're just gonna have to write fan fiction for this book and just like make it for ourselves to make it better, because all this stuff the same thing. I just bit my tongue. Maybe that means I need to stop talking. I think my memory card is almost full. I have like 4 minutes left on my memory card, and I have 2 books to talk about. So I finally finished my reread of Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I'm just grabbing something else. I need to talk faster. Okay. Les Mis. You guys know, I've read this book before. I wanted to reread it again. It took me a year and a half. Rainey and I were buddy reading it, and that was really successful, wasn't it, Rainey? Anyways, yeah, it's such a great story, but honestly, get an abridged version. There's so much. There's like, I know that's a controversial opinion, but there's so much in here that there's so many rants. There's rants about slang. There's rants about sewers, about whatever the war is. The Napoleon Wars. I don't know. Whatever they are. Rants about religion for a while. The organized church as a whole. Just like all of these rants. And it's like, I just want to read this story. There's probably at least 300 pages in here of just different kinds of rants, which you could totally skip and it would be fine. So next time I read the book, I'm going to be reading this one, which Rainey gave me for my birthday. And this is an engaging visual journey, and it is mega abridged, and it has pretty pictures, and this is what I'm going to read next time. You can't even see the pictures. Like, here's a picture. Like, look at that. That's so nice. Luxembourg Gardens at Twilight by John Singer Sargent, 1879. Look at that. Beautiful. So I'm going to read this next time. Okay, like maybe, like it is a great story and it's well worth reading, but it's the rants, guys. Like, dang. So if anyone has like, maybe something that's in between this and this, like an abridgment, where just the rants are cut out, or they are just like an appendix at the back so you can read them. That would be great. Okay, I've 1 minute left. So then the last thing isn't even a book, but I listened to it on Audible, so I'm going to talk about it, and that was The Beginner's Mind by Yo-Yo Ma. And they have this series of different musicians talking about like their lives and careers and whatever. And so I don't know why I got Yo-Yo Ma, but I did like quite a while ago. And so I finally listened to it and it was really good. Just him talking about growing up, how he got into music and kind of the beginnings of his career. And then at the end of each section, he plays some songs. So that was nice. So those are all of the things that I read and I listened to in 2023. If you're still here, congrats. Here's a virtual cookie for you. You deserve it. And yeah, if you've read any of these books, let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions about any of them, content wise or whatever, like leave a comment. I'd be happy to answer the questions because I was trying to talk so fast. Now I have to go make supper because I'm hungry. Chris is going to be home soon. I'm making tomato soup and grilled cheese, and I will be back with more videos. So get used to seeing this face again because you're gonna. So thanks for watching. Until next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish. Mwah!